To learn more about earning college credits with study hall courses, visit gostudyhall.com or click the link in the description. Imagine what your life would be like if you'd been born 1500 to 1000 years ago. Unless you were born wealthy or to nomadic people, you probably spent most of your life pretty close to home. Long-distance travel was difficult and sometimes impossible, so meeting new people and seeing new things wasn't as common as today. Now, think about contemporary life. Planes take people all across the world, there are channels on TV in every language imaginable, and you can meet people from across the globe online. Even if they have kind of weird opinions about what foods they think Americans put hot dogs on. The modern world is almost unrecognizable to that life 1500 years ago. We're far more connected than we've ever been, and that change didn't happen overnight. For thousands of years, human progress was slow, and life was more or less the same from generation to generation. But over the last 1,000 years, we've seen giant shifts in, well, just about everything. So when did things start changing so fast? Well, maybe it was the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, or the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century. So it depends on who you ask, but we here at Study Hall think that one of the most important catalysts on the path from then to now happens around 1160 on the Mongolian steppe, with the birth of a child who would one day rule one of the largest empires that's ever existed. I'm Rob Fuller, and this is Study Hall, Modern World History. Before we get to the child, though, let's talk about that word, empire. You've probably heard Jay-Z describe it as a state of mind or strategy games about the age of empires, or maybe you remember that empire that so famously struck back. In historical terms, empires are a single political organization that controls multiple geopolitical territories like city-states, countries, or possibly entire planets. Under the authority of a single ruler, of course. And if we're talking about big shifts around the world, empires are a pretty good place to start, since they're usually the ones with the power to incite or respond to these large-scale changes. They've also been incredibly common throughout world history. In fact, there have been more than 50 empires throughout recorded history, all over the globe. Empire building started with the Akkadian Empire around the 23rd century BCE in Mesopotamia, and other early empires included the Babylonian and Kushite empires. But the empire we want to focus on is the Mongol Empire, which existed between 1206 CE and 1368 CE. Which, if you look at the name of this course, might seem a little odd. The modern era doesn't start until the 16th century, so why are we going back in time? Well, history isn't just about the specific events happening at a given time. History is the result of everything that came before it. So to truly understand the modern era, we have to go back a little farther. The Mongols were one of the most crucial empires in setting the stage for the modern era, since many of the structures and systems the Mongols built to govern their vast empire are still in use by countries all over the world today. Led by a single leader, the Mongols put together the largest land-based empire in history, and in the process, reshaped the world politically and economically. Before they ran a giant empire, the Mongols were a group of nomadic herding tribes. In the early 12th century, they lived in the harsh and vast steppe lands that stretched across Central Asia. And because they were nomadic herders, the Mongols regularly migrated to find fresh food for their livestock and avoid harsh weather conditions. But that lifestyle makes it tough to accumulate resources and develop things that require large, hard-to-move equipment like tools, pots, and iron weapons. To get the resources they needed, nomadic peoples like the Mongols would either trade with sedentary, permanent civilizations like China, or raid them and take what they needed by force. But by the end of the 12th century, the Mongols were struggling to maintain their way of life, and different Mongol tribes were even fighting amongst themselves. Enter Temujin, a child born to the Borazhan clan around 1167 CE. Temujin gained notoriety in his youth by surviving a series of violent conflicts with other clans, which earned him both respect and influence, and soon Mongol groups with different beliefs and cultures began following Temujin's leadership, forming a confederation of unified tribes. With the Mongols unified, Temujin began to dream bigger. He set his sights outside the steppe and began conquering nearby nations, and the more nations he conquered, the more people Temujin attracted to his side. Recognizing his influence, the Mongol nobility gathered in 1206 to endorse Temujin as their ruler, and gave him the title Universal Ruler, or, as you may know him, Genghis Khan. Alone, Mongol tribes had to constantly fight for their survival. But when unified under Genghis, these individual tribes multiplied their strength, which gave them a hold on the region that wouldn't break for more than a century. Eventually, he established Mongol-run governments in his conquered territories, and from there, they conquered states and territories throughout Central Asia, including powerful established empires like the Abbasid Caliphate in modern-day Iraq and the Song Dynasty in China. When the Mongol Empire was at its peak, it controlled more than 9 million square miles of territory with around 100 million subjects. It stretched from Poland to the Pacific Ocean and Manchuria down to the Arabian Sea. That's about 20% of the Earth's landmass. To put that in perspective, the contiguous United States would fit in the Mongol Empire nearly 3 times. And while the Mongols used violence to conquer their territory like basically every other empire in history, that isn't the whole story. Genghis Khan soon found out that conquering wasn't the same thing as ruling an empire, which, as you might think, requires peacekeeping, defense, tax collecting, all the boring day-to-day government stuff. He had to figure out how to bring people from diverse cultural backgrounds under one government. And he didn't have study hall videos to teach him how. The Mongols had a super sophisticated military structure, but their political systems weren't on the same level. Empires are big and complex, so if the rulers want it to stick around, they need to create an economic and social structure that allows its rulers to maintain political power while also keeping its citizens under mostly peaceful control. For instance, some empires structure society into hierarchies where some people have more power than others. These can be based on categories like class, education, family lineage, and race. The higher-ups in a social hierarchy are known as elites, who often act as local governors. The elites answered to the emperor, creating a system of distributed power where the emperor maintained overarching control, but allowed the elites to act on their behalf. But the Mongol Empire conquered territories without a strong political system to back it up. So instead of trying to impose one system of Mongol government on everyone, they ended up adopting governmental elements from conquered territories to maintain their rule. This meant that the political system from one part of the Mongol Empire could be very different from the political system in another. So almost out of necessity, the Mongol Empire stumbled upon a new method for empire building. Before, empires often focused on assimilating new territories into their own political and cultural structures. But the Mongols adapted their methods for each place they conquered, albeit they did install their own leaders at the top. They focused on diversity and localization rather than assimilation. Similarly, the Mongols also had a more relaxed attitude towards religion. Historically, empires can maintain power by instituting a common culture or faith where everyone's required to follow the new social rules. Like worshiping the same gods or celebrating the same holidays. They can use a common social code to consolidate power, since violating those codes could get you punished. Or even killed. But the Mongol Empire allowed cultural diversity and tolerated diverse religious beliefs. For instance, Genghis Khan strengthened his power by showing tolerance towards other religions. In the early years of the Mongol Empire, he invited holy men from many different peoples that he ruled to visit his court and share their faiths. He even incorporated some of their perspectives into the way he ran his empire. And it kind of makes sense, right? If you're the ruler of any type of government, it's more peaceful to adapt to the people, even if you aren't a conqueror, because if you barge in and try to change their entire culture, well, they'll probably resist your rule. But if you come to power and keep things mostly the same while working to improve the lives of the residents, they're much less likely to rebel. And that goes for the emperors of old and those in power today. It turns out that tolerance of different cultures is a critical part of building states composed of diverse people. Especially if you're already kind of the enemy to them, the Mongols did kill millions in their conquests, and that's a lot to make up for. Like, an impossible amount to make up for. Successful empires also need efficient economic networks to control trade throughout their territory. And if we haven't made it clear yet, the Mongol Empire was huge. Genghis Khan knew that developing those trade networks was crucial. So he expanded and controlled them by investing in trade, changing laws, and establishing a support system for merchants. All of which brought the empire closer together and made some people a lot of money. And, in general, people like making money. Many communities thrived under the trade boom brought on by Mongol support. That made people happy, and from a ruling perspective, it helped to keep the peace. So again, it's not only a nice thing to do, but also helpful for keeping a giant empire together. And while there was already global trade happening, some historians have marked this boom as the beginning of globalization. Diverse territories across the globe were becoming politically and economically linked. And as we'll learn throughout this course, that only accelerates over time. Essentially, the Mongol Empire revolutionized the way humans shared goods, ideas, and information with one another. And the connections they formed would eventually outlive them. But before they would fall, the Mongols demonstrated how innovation and collaboration can enable empires to make advancements in politics, economics, and culture, and share them with people from different parts of the world. In many ways, the Mongols were like your standard pre-modern empire. They collected taxes and they conquered through terrible, terrible violence. It's hard to know exactly how many people they killed, but generally, historians estimate around 40 million people died as a result of Mongol conquest. That was around 10% of the world's population. But the Mongol Empire also connected the world in a way that it had never been before, and pushed the world into a new era of trade and international relations that would make waves which we can still feel today. Like, they created social systems that promoted cultural exchange so goods and ideas could spread. Those Mongol trade routes that let them move silk from China to Europe also gave the world a pattern it could follow to build more social and economic connections on a scale we hadn't seen before. So, what started with the Mongols moving silks around set the stage for the global economy that today lets us buy green tea Pocky at the click of a button. At the beginning, though, we said the Mongols were probably the most important catalyst on the path from a world of limited cultural exchange to our modern one. But maybe path is a bad way to put it. History isn't just something that moves in a single direction. It's more like a web. The entire world's history is tied together. You tug on one part, and it's going to pull on the whole thing. When something changes in one place, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It affects the world around it. That's what we'll explore throughout this series. The ways the world changed and became more connected, and how people chose to respond to those changes, which in turn made more changes, and then people responded to those changes, and then this web is going to be a big one. We all live on it after all. If you're enjoying Study Hall Modern World History and are interested in taking an online course and earning college credit, visit gostudyhall.com or click on the button to learn more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.